Welcome to Texas Border Watch, your eyes on the front line for all things immigration, border security, and local policy. 2 sentences have been handed down today for the people who are involved in the migrant truck tragedy in San Antonio, a day that many of us who were here at the time will never forget. So this tractor trailer along Quintana Road was left abandoned, and when law enforcement went to open up the back of it, you see it here, it's a scene they say will stick with them forever. 54 people ended up dying because they were trapped in that trailer in sweltering South Texas heat. And law enforcement has told us when they opened up that trailer, the migrants inside had meat seasoning all over them to try to mask the smell, to try to deter people from knowing and realizing that this was a human smuggling case. Now, the death count previously was 53, but the judge has now updated that because one of the women that died was pregnant. So her unborn child now counted in that total, so it stands at 54. This is a look at the inside of that trailer after everyone was cleared out, and I specifically want you to look over here. Law enforcement now says that the situation inside got so dire and so hot that people were literally trying to claw their way out of there. I was one of the reporters on scene the night that this trailer was discovered. I was relatively new to San Antonio, and it was so hot out there. You can only imagine how hot it must have been in this big metal box with about 60 people inside of it, no air conditioning. It's really just unimaginable. So these are the 2 people that were sentenced today. Felipe Orduna Torres is said to be kind of the ringleader of this operation. He was sentenced to life in prison and a $250,000 fine. And then Armando Gonzalez Ortega was supposedly the right-hand man to Orduna Torres. He was given 83 years in prison and a $250,000 fine. So these 2 men now likely to spend the rest of their lives in prison. And we're told that this actually wasn't their first smuggling operation. The U.S. Attorney's Office believes that they actually were responsible for bringing about 11,000 people into the U.S. with measures like this. The tractor trailer, the big box truck, that was kind of their MO. So here are some other photos from the other human smuggling runs that they did. You see how tightly packed all these people are in here. All of these people are just kind of sitting front to back in line. You see some people have their shirts off, they look sweaty, surely very hot in there. We also got to see this picture, which is, it appears to be a temperature gauge looking in here. It says 79.3 degrees. We know that on the day where all of those migrants died, there was no air conditioning in the back of that trailer, so just sweltering conditions out there. So I want you now to hear from Justin Simmons, who is the U.S. Attorney for the Western District of Texas, had a very heavy hand in seeing this process through, and he's got a warning for people who are trying to get into the country this way and for the people who are trying to bring people into the country this way.
So my message to those who are south of the border and maybe considering coming across in a manner similar to this: cartels do not care about you. They do not care about your hopes and dreams. They do not care about your desire for a better life. They care about money, first and foremost. They care about money first and foremost. There were 64 people in this tractor trailer. The estimate is they paid at least $12,000 each. That's $768,000 that the cartels made off of this group of people. This trip alone, $768,000. They're still enjoying that money over there in Mexico. It's not like they give the money back when you die or when you get picked up by law enforcement. They're still enjoying it. From November of 2021 through June of 2022, it's estimated that this cell moved approximately 1,100 people across the border. At $12,000 apiece, that's over $13 million in revenue to the cartel, just from this cell. The reality is the cartels have made billions of dollars smuggling humans across the border over the last several years. The United States has taken a whole-of-government approach to combating alien smuggling and illegal immigration. And by doing that, by taking this whole-of-government approach, we've effectively shut off a major income stream for the cartels. In addition to that, we've also made it much harder for them to move their drugs across the street because across the border. They use these humans to disguise their drug loads.
And these are just the first sentencings in this case. There are 6 more people that were part of this larger human smuggling cell, and they're expected to be sentenced in December. They have all already pled guilty. There's also one more person the U.S. attorney was saying that could potentially be going to trial over this. Again, it's just another example of how far people are willing to go, how they're willing to risk their lives to come into the United States, and how there are people looking to profit off of that. The Department of Defense is setting up 2 new military zones along the U.S. border with Mexico, which brings the grand total now to 4. So we've told you about the zone in New Mexico, the zone in El Paso. They're now adding one in Yuma, Arizona, and right here in deep South Texas. This is going to be in Cameron and Hidalgo counties. It's 250 miles along the Rio Grande that is going to be this national defense area, as they call it. And this is all going to be administered out of Joint Base San Antonio, at Lackland specifically. So in these zones, the military can detain migrants who are illegally crossing the border, and then eventually they hand them over to the Department of Homeland Security. So this is how the Air Force kind of described the mission here. They said it is enhanced detection and monitoring through stationary positions and mobile patrols, temporarily detaining trespassers until they are transferred to the appropriate law enforcement authorities, and supporting the installation of temporary barriers and signage to secure the area. A few weeks ago, we showed you over in that El Paso area, the soldiers putting in signs saying, hey, this is a national defense area. We'll likely see something similar here in deep South Texas as well. There have been arrests and convictions in some of those other border defense areas, but crossings are significantly lower than they've been in the past. In this month's Border Patrol report, we were told that in the last month, Border Patrol did not release anyone who crossed illegally into the United States, whereas a year ago, they say the Biden administration released more than 62,000 illegal crossers into the country. They really wanted to highlight that difference. So we'll keep you updated on when this Texas Defense Zone is fully operational and if we get any insights into what's going on there. New sections of border wall are also coming to Texas. DHS Secretary Kristi Noem announced that a new waiver has been signed to expedite that construction, specifically in the Rio Grande Valley sector. They're going to build about 17 miles, and they say that the money was already allocated for this in fiscal year 2021. So that money's been sitting there for quite some time. Now, the key to this waiver is that it allows the federal government to sidestep some of the environmental regulations that typically they would have to go through in order to build border wall. So it's meant to really speed up that process and to start construction soon. We have asked DHS specifically when that will start in the Rio Grande Valley sector and specifically where that's happening. We also asked if this is going to be built on land that the federal government already had control of, or if this is land that Texas secured and then handed over to the federal government, because you'll remember there's been a lot of that over the last few years in Operation Lone Star, and as Governor Greg Abbott has gone to DC to kind of negotiate for Texas to be reimbursed for Operation Lone Star, that's something that he's brought up. He has told federal lawmakers that Texas has all of this land that's ready for border wall to be built on, and that they're willing to hand that over to the federal government, because Texas recently took a bunch of money out of their funding for border wall because the federal government has said that they've got it. So we're still waiting to hear back on that. We're still waiting for a decision on whether Texas will be reimbursed for the last 4 years of border security spending, because border wall actions were a big part of that. So as the federal House and Senate continue to debate that, we will continue to keep you updated. But that's all for this week's Texas Border Watch. If you have any questions or anything that you'd like to see included on here, please let us know in the comments. I'm Jordan Elder.